Hello, all you happy people. I am live. Yep, I did that. So, as you can see, I'm back. Webcam, new webcam. It's, I don't know. Haven't decided if I like it yet or not. Don't know if I like this placement of it either, but it's working. So that's an improvement, right? It wasn't working last week. It's working this week. So we'll take the improvement and move on. Hey, Mr. Nope, how you doing? So, got an interesting show tonight because there's a lot going on, and some of it's a little different. We're going to talk about Daredevil Born Again Season 2, and we're going to talk about just some quick thoughts on The Pitt, which is just aired episode 12, the cancellation of the CBS series Watson, the recently released Harry Potter trailer, and a show that has been out a few months, but I've just had a chance to watch called Death by Lightning, which is so bizarre. So I'm going to talk about that, but I also want to it's a little early, so we haven't got into it yet. Plus, I've got a little bit of an update on Obsidian Moon, but uh, it's an odd update. So, Ed, good to see you. So, hey, Ed, I have some news for you. The fourth season of Jack Reacher has finished filming. They're in the editing stage and is expected to be out this year. That's as closest to an update as I got for you. But yeah, we'll have to see how that turns out. But yeah, it's supposed to be out this year. We're getting a lot of stuff this year. It's going to be a very busy year watching wise. I know right now I am absolutely swamped with stuff that I'm watching. I'm halfway through Young Sherlock. I said I'm watching Death by Lightning, which we're going to talk about, because that's a show that even if you don't watch it, you should know what that show's about. And I got my list here. This is the stuff we're watching. Um, the Pitt, Starfleet Academy. We got one episode of that left. We know there's not going to be another season of that, but it's interesting. Go Blue, yeah. Actually, I'm not a big college sports fan, but I am a Wolverines fan. So, Tamunga Bianca Patuka for the football team, yeah. Uh, that was a long time ago. But yeah, so there's lots of stuff going on right now, and there's more coming out too. We're also watching Deadlock, which is this bizarre Australian murder mystery. It's second season, and I mean the biggest name in it is Luke Hemsworth, the third Hemsworth brother. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. We haven't gotten back to Paradise yet. Um, Still got the third season of The Night Agent to watch. Yeah, it's just a plethora of television right now. So, all right, we're just about at 4 o'clock, so we shall get started. First up, I want to talk about. Let's see, where should we begin? Let's talk about the Harry Potter trailer. Okay. I grew up, well, well before the Harry Potter books came out, but I saw the first movie, decided to read the first book, ended up reading all of them, caught up, and then caught up to um, as the new ones came out. So I was a Harry Potter fan. I liked the movies, I liked the books, but yeah, let me sidetrack back here of what Dad's talking about. Yeah, touchdown, Tim. I watched him. A buddy of mine used to bet, and he always took Ohio State, so I always took Michigan. We always had a bet on that game. And Bianca Patuka did so well in that game that I used to call, and whenever he was on a job site and I had to get a hold of him and I had to leave a message or they would page him, I would say my name was Tumunga Biakapatuka and I could spell it. And I would leave a phone message for him as Tumunga Biakapatuka. And my girlfriend was working with us at the time and sat directly in front of him. And when Tumunga got drafted by the Carolina Panthers, which is my favorite team anyway, I bought her a Biakapatuka jersey, and she would wear it on Fridays and sit right in front of him. So we tortured that Ohio State fan like you wouldn't believe with Biakapatuka. Do you know his nephew is currently in the NHL? How's that for a big change? Yeah, his nephew plays ice hockey. All right, so back to Harry Potter. I don't know what I was expecting. Oh, that's awesome, Ed. Yeah, that was a hell of a game. Um, so the Harry Potter trailer, it's not bad. There's nothing wrong with it, but I don't know. It's something about the feeling of it. When I would watch the trailers for the other movies, there was this magic to them. And I meant more than just, oh, you're a wizard, Harry. There was this actual magic you felt. This sense of not only hope, but this anything could happen. That you were going into this amazing world. But the trailer we saw, it was so focused on Aunt Petunia and how just mean she was to Harry and what this little kid is going through and living under the stairs and being told there's nothing special about him. They're so focused on that it kind of takes away the feeling of magic. So when I watched that, I'm like, if I didn't know the books and the movies and stuff, this would do nothing for me. This wouldn't give me the idea of this incredible world that had been built, the wizarding world. I mean, whatever your feelings about the author now, she created an amazing IP. It really is. All the lore, all the backstory, all the way things work, the Ministry of Magic, the Dementors, every little part of it is so well thought out. And none of that comes through in this trailer. And what it just looks like is we're going to try to squeeze some more money out of this franchise. Now, I know as the books got later, they got bigger. And a lot of stuff got left out of the adaptations. So as the series progresses, it's going to be able to tap into stuff that never got shown in the movies. The problem is the first book is really small comparatively. There's not a lot that was left out. And the stuff that was didn't really add much to the lore. So it just feels weird, you know? And it's not like, oh, that's Snape. Oh, that's Dumbledore. It feels like you're at a comic convention and it's people cosplaying as the characters. And maybe it's because for years, Robbie Coltrane was Hagrid. McGonagall, you knew these characters. You knew what they looked like. And seeing somebody else play them just feels weird. So, hey, Thomas. So, yeah, I guess I like that world. And I worry about what they're doing with it. And I don't mean I worry that they're going to destroy it or they're going to mistreat it. I just don't know if there's enough there to bring people back. to justify 8 seasons, 7 seasons, 8 seasons of television that I don't know if they'll even get to because I don't know. We'll have to see. So that's my thought. Did you guys see the trailer for Harry Potter? Or are you just done with the whole IP because of the stance that Rawlings takes on certain things? Or, I mean, does this interest you? Let me know. All right, we're going to move on. I want to give you a little update on Obsidian Moon, and it's a weird update because, yeah, I'm still working on it. I haven't had a chance to really sit down and continue working on Chaos Game. I need to do that. I plan on doing that in the next couple days. But what I did was I was laying in bed at night, laying in bed one night, and my mind was kind of going 90 miles an hour. Yeah, they're remaking Harry Potter as a television series on HBO Max. So the first trailer dropped about 2 or 3 days ago. So as I was laying there, I was thinking about one of the things Obsidian Moon is. It's a bunch of IPs that I've been creating over the years that really kind of fit together in a way I hadn't expected, I hadn't planned. But it's like 6 IPs. It's the Lucius Fogg books. It's Unravel, which was a comic that I was doing through Shadowline. It's Forever Shadow. It's Poseidon's Wake. It's now, it was the first comic ever published called Bloodlust, now called Viral. Um, it's Brawl, which was something I've been working on for a long time. These are all different takes on classic monsters in a way, but done in an urban fantasy setting that, again, they all kind of connect together. But I had forgotten that I had come up with a zombie story years ago that I wanted to do, and I had it in my brain, and it had a neat twist to it. And I realized that, like Poseidon's Wake, this would work as a standalone one shot in the universe. So I'm adding that to Obsidian Wake. It's called Descent. And as I get closer, we'll talk more about it. But I just want to let you guys know Obsidian Moon is still happening. It's just not happening as quickly as I want it to, but it will continue. Didn't look much different than the original, but flatter and doesn't look very magical. Yeah, Mr. Nope, that's exactly my feelings on the Harry Potter trailer. So, all right, let's move on. And one of the things I want to talk about, I'm going to save one for the end, but the Pitt. If you're not watching the Pitt on HBO, it is fantastic television. If you took ER and 24 and merged them together, you get the Pitt. Hey, Cat. So you get 1 hour every hour. It's a 15-hour show. It's a 15-episode season. And it's all about this group of doctors at the ER at the Pitt in Pittsburgh. Season 1 was fantastic. They dealt with a mass shooting, and there was a lot of drama going on, a lot of patient stuff, but it was really well done. Season 2, it's also been good, but there's a little more leaning into the character, the drama of the characters, and less about the situations. And I don't know if I like that as much as season 1. It's still good, but there's 3 episodes left, and I really want to see how this wraps up. If you like medical dramas, This is probably one of the best we've seen in a very long time. All right, everybody, play nice in the chat. No picking on Cat. So, but yeah, so I'm finishing up the Pitt, but let's talk about Daredevil season 2, or Daredevil Born Again season 2. Has everybody caught up on or seen the first one? I'm not going to do spoilers, but it's kind of interesting because I'm seeing them as they come out. But there's a lot of people who have seen the whole season already. And what I'm hearing in their reviews and thoughts is that the first 2 episodes are a little slow. The third episode is fantastic and steps on the gas, and it never takes its foot off the gas through the rest of the season. I'm hoping that's 100% true. I liked the first episode of the season, but it was a little slow. So and episodes 2 and 3 come out back to back on Tuesday. So we're going to get them both on Tuesday. So it's kind of tricky what they're doing, though. And if you guys haven't heard this, they're doing 7 weeks of Daredevil. So 1 episode, 2 episodes, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And then the week following the end of Daredevil season 2, they're releasing the Punisher special presentation, a 1-hour Punisher special co-written by John Bernthal, which should explain where he's been since the end of Daredevil season 1, or Born Again season 1, and how he gets to Spider-Man Brand New Day. So you definitely want to catch that. But some of the interesting things in the first episode of Daredevil Born Again season 2 is there's it feels a little more polished, like they have a better idea of what they're doing. And we know that season 1 was kind of a Frankenstein. You know, they had some episodes that were done by one creative team, and then it was scrapped, and another creative team was brought in and told to make a few episodes and try to use as much of the existing stuff as possible. So it kind of became Frankenstein together. So that's why season 1 seemed kind of uneven at times. Like you had that intense first episode, and then suddenly it became a courtroom drama, and kind of went like that. But not all of the previous stuff was bad. I mean, one of my favorite episodes of season 1 was the bank heist. And that was all the previous group too. So, but I thought they did a good job of sewing it all together. And I think a lot of people wouldn't even have realized it if it wasn't so publicly known. But and no, Daredevil isn't in Brand New Day, and they're saying he's not. Punisher is in Brand New Day. Yeah, there is a lot of talk that he's hidden, but Charlie Cox says he's not in it. Daredevil hasn't been in a movie. He's just been in TV shows. He did appear in No Way Home as a cameo. But yeah, Punisher, John Bernthal's Punisher is set. And if you see the trailer for Brand New Day, he's in it. And you get to see him, and he's going to be a pretty decent part. Yeah, there's a couple scenes in the trailer that look odd. Like there's a picture of like Spider-Man up here and the hand jumping towards him, but their eye lines, some of them are looking at Spider-Man up there. Some are looking like over here where there is nothing. So people are like, it's kind of like that other the other video they did for Brand New Day or No Way Home, where Spider-Man was jumping at the three villains, but they weren't all looking at him, and it was like, oh, that's because there was two other Spider-Mans in there. But yeah, so people seem to think there's something hidden. But yeah, so the Daredevil series. So we're not going to get Punisher in Daredevil Born Again season 2, but we will get the special at the end, and he'll be in Spider-Man Brand New Day. It is hard to keep track of all these names. I almost need like a whiteboard with the all drawn out, like one of those Charlie Day murder conspiracy things. Some of the things I like about Brand New Day are the Born Again season 2. I need a short DBA season 2. Can I do that and you guys will follow? Is we're following up with the swordsman Jack DeCane, who of course was introduced in the Hawkeye series, and he's still in the custody of the Anti-Vigilante Task Force. That is awesome, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do with this guy. And it's funny to me that since the Hawkeye season, we have not seen Clint Barton, we have not seen Kate Bishop, but we get plenty of Jack DeCane. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, especially since the titles are so similar to Spider-Man. It is, yeah. I'm just getting tripped up on those. I like the introduction of Matthew Lillard. If you've seen it, you know he's named Mr. Charles. But it makes me wonder if he is Mr. Charles. Because the way his name is given, he doesn't give his name as Mr. Charles. He just comes in, mentions that he's from Langley, which is, of course, entertainment industry code for I'm with the CIA. I'm from Langley. Well, and there must be nothing else in Langley. There must not be like a Blimpies or a Piggly Wiggly or anything there that if you're from Langley, you're from the CIA. Anyway, and if you ask any experts, none of them say they're from CIA, any actual CIA agents. That's just entertainment code. But when his name is given, it's by Kingpin. Wilson Fisk introduces him, already knowing who he is, even though he just showed up. And of course, there's a phone call that comes in, and it's from Val, Countess Valentina de Fontaine, and the whole big long name, Allegra de Fontaine. Julie Louis-Dreyfus's character from Falcon the Winter Soldier, Black Widow, and she's just been popped. And of course, Thunderbolts. She's now, tried to use the Sentry. So somehow Mr. Charles is connected to Fontaine, and her corporation, OXE, is doing work with Kingpin using his Freeport. So there we go. We have our big connection to the main MCU. Yeah, Piggly Wiggly is such a weird name. And you know what? We don't have them out here in California. So just the fact that it's just a silly name. But so I like that. I like they're using BB Urich better. There's more of a connection to her and an understanding, which I've always loved the character of Ben Urich in the Daredevil comics. I hated that they killed him off so early in the original Daredevil run. So in a way, to me, this is kind of honoring that character. Though I would rather have had Vondae Curtis Hall in the series more. But you take what you get. But yeah, it was a good first episode, but it could have been a little better. There's some great fights. Dee Dee is using his baton more. The Billy Club part is separating on the cord and then zipping it back. So there's some new fight style in there. There's a couple good fight scenes. There's a nice twist ending I will not give away. But yeah, it was a good start. But like I said, the people that didn't like season 2 seem to think that the first episode was a little bit like season 1, or they didn't like season 1. So you should give it at least the first 3 episodes. To be if you've watched the first one, you don't like it. Everybody who's seen all of it says give it through episode 3. So if you haven't started watching it, on Tuesday, episodes 2 and 3 come out. Binge all 3 at once. Kermit's favorite place to be. I need a rim shot. I need a button I can press that just goes ba-dim bunch. I want a sound effect box. I do. I want a sound effects box that I could just hit. That would be great. Reminds me of a very old dirty joke my dad told me about Kermit the Frog. Anyway, moving on. So Daredevil Born Again season 2, episode 1. A lot of good stuff in it. They're setting up the rest of the season. They're setting up the return of Jessica Jones. I don't know if they were trying to hide it in the actual filming. There's one moment Karen references Jess, but that's it. So it does feel like they were going to keep it a secret, but then Marvel looked at it and went, oh, no, we're using this. We're putting her in the trailer, which was smart. It really was. We all knew she was coming back anyway, so there was no need to keep it a secret. All right. Trying to remember all the stuff I wanted to talk to you guys about. Man of Tomorrow should start filming next month in April. That's going to be cool. If you're a Warhammer player like I am, well, at this point, I'm a Warhammer collector and painter. I don't play that much because I don't have a playing partner yet. But they're announcing the new rule edition. Not a lot has changed. So if you have an army, most of it's going to stay the same. Batman Part 2 is going to move into production probably in May or June. Hopefully that'll get started quickly. I expect CinemaCon, which is in April, will probably get more footage of Supergirl. And then we'll probably get some announcements casting-wise for Man of Tomorrow and the Batman. So can't say for sure, but fingers crossed. What do you think about the Alan Richardson neighbor fiasco? All right, we can talk about that. Having ridden a motorcycle, it's been years, but having ridden, somebody stepping out in front of you like that is extremely dangerous because you have to brake quickly. And what happens when you are on a motorcycle and you brake quickly, there's a chance to go over the handlebars. And it looks like that's what happened. You know, I mean, you can hit the back brakes, but first your natural reaction is going to be the hand brakes as well. And the hand brakes tend to work better than the back brakes. You're going to slow down faster in the front and you're going to have the back end come up. And that's what happened. So that guy, A, was an idiot for trying to stand in front of a moving motorcycle. He was only going, you know, you watch the body cam, you can see he never went that fast. I think 22 was the highest I saw on the footage. He's got his 2 kids behind them on bikes. So when he went over, they could have hit him and caused a bigger accident. So again, all of this stuff is looking bad for Ronnie, the idiot who stepped into the street, who then persisted. So in this case, I don't see anything on Alan. Alan tried to walk away. He tried to get back on his bike and leave. The guy pushed him down again. I cannot see how Allen could have handled that situation any better. And even when he did resort to violence, it wasn't as severe as it could have been. He could have hit the guy in the face multiple times. He could have really hurt the guy. Because it's not like we don't think Alan Richardson can fight. He went for body blows, which are the easiest to absorb. They hurt like hell, but they're going to do the least amount of damage. And put the guy on the ground and told him to stay there. He didn't jump on him. He didn't keep pounding him. So that's why that's why the police looked at the tape and went, yeah, there's no charges. If anything, Alan could have pressed charges against Ronnie and decided not to. So I don't see how this looks bad for Alan at all. I think Alan handled it as best as humanly possible in an impossible situation. So, yeah, my hat's off to him. I think he handled it great. And I think Ronnie should just be ignored by every single neighbor, because that's not somebody you want to live by. It's just not. So it says, I couldn't agree with you more, Dan. Stupid enough to step out in front of a bike, but it's next level of stupid to confront a giant with 2 kids. That neighbor deserves everything he got. I laugh when Richardson keeps being called a giant. He's big. I mean, but he's 6'2" or 6'3". He's not the 6'6", 6'7" that Reacher is supposed to be. They shoot him on a little bit up angle, stuff like that, because finding an actor who can act and is that big is tough. But every time I hear giant, I laugh because I'm taller than him. I'm bigger than him. So it's just funny to me because I don't consider myself a giant. This is if something that people don't understand if they're not a big person is you don't feel like a giant most of the time. You do when you're walking into places and it's tiny. I live in a very Asian neighborhood. I live near one of the largest Buddhist temples in the world. So the neighborhood I grew up in and live in has become very Asian culture. So wherever I go, everything is geared towards Asian community. Smaller chairs, smaller seating, smaller everything. And I drive my Raptor around and it's hard to find parking. I get out and I go, to sit in the doctor's waiting room and I don't fit in any of the chairs. That's the only time I feel giant. Most of the time, I just feel average because this is average height to me. So if I see somebody who is my size, 2 inches up, 2 inches down, whatever, they're average height. We're the same. I see somebody who's 5'9", they're on the short side. I met Magic Johnson, who's like, is he 6'8" or 6'9"? He seemed a little tall. I met Dennis Rodman. He seemed a little tall. But most people seem a little short to me. But this is just average height, This is just where the world is. All right. And having a brother who was similar height kind of helped with that. Yeah, it would be hard for me to get an oversized suit. Yeah, it's like going shoe shopping. How some shoe stores, they have that giant shoe on top of the sign. Yeah, it's like you have to show that they're a shoe store. I usually walk in going, yeah, I'm gonna need the shoe from the sign, and I need to call around to your other stores to find the match. Yeah. What's funny is I didn't really have big feet growing up. I wear a size 15, though sometimes I will get larger sizes. Right now, I'm more comfortable in a 16. Um, but I went to high school with a gentleman named Scott Williams. And if you look up Scott Williams, he was an NBA player, 7 foot tall, um, well, around seven. Sometimes they list him, but wore a size 19 shoe. So that's why I didn't play basketball in high school because I was just a short white guy. Yeah, Scott went on to play in the NBA and was actually on one of the Bulls teams with Jordan when they won one of the rings. So, and he moved around a lot. He was with the Bucks and a bunch of other teams. I was a bouncer for a little bit. I didn't have that job as a real job, but what I would do is I would get called for like concerts and stuff. There used to be a series of concerts in this area that the band would then do signings afterwards, and my job was to stand at there looking as big as possible. And at the time, I looked a lot like the Undertaker because I had reddish brown hair, just beard, wore a trench coat, stood there. Um, there is also I got hired by Marvel to when they were doing the Marvel Mega Tour, I think it was called, back in the early '90s, and Clive Barker was doing some comics for them, Hyperkind, Ecto Kid, and they hired me to do a couple of the signings he was doing because there had been this incident in England where somebody walked up, slit their own hand open to draw blood, and asked Clive to sign in their blood. Well, Marvel went, nah, that's not happening. So I got brought in to my local shop, and then from there I got asked to do a couple other shops in the area. So this is back when Polaroids were still big. This shows you how long ago it was, and people were taking pictures with Clive, and I was basically standing next to him. So there's probably hundreds, if not more, Polaroid pictures out there of people standing with Clive Barker and me standing behind him like this. I do have a photo somewhere of Clive and I at the time. I used to have it really close at hand where I could find it easy enough, but I don't know where it is at the moment. But yeah, it's a long time ago. So, but yeah, I did it for a couple local bands and stuff too. Uh, what's funny is I also got hired by IDW one year when I was I hadn't done any work with them, but I was a good friend of Steve Niles, and I would come around. They knew me, um, and this was when Tom Jane was doing stuff with them, and he had just done The Punisher, and they wanted someone that could take Tom around the convention center at San Diego Con. Like he was signing and then he had to get to a panel and they needed someone who could just take him through the crowd. And I found, that was my job, and I found it easier to control the crowd, harder to control Tom. I've got a lot of Tom stories. I love Tom, but I got some Tom stories. Dan, have you ever considered writing an autobiography in comic form? Um, I don't know. Maybe, maybe one day. Yeah. Or I'm just gonna, grow old enough that I forget them all. But so, all right, let's move on to our final topic. And I'm gonna apologize now because it's political. But don't turn off. Don't check out. It's not about today's politics. It's about the politics from the 1800s. There is a TV show on Netflix, came out in November, And I had heard about it. I started watching a few minutes of it, thought it was cool, but then stepped away from it and just got back to it now. It's called Death by Lightning. And if you haven't heard of this, it is phenomenal. It stars, no, you know, I'm going to pull up the list real quick. IMDb list. Because it's got an amazing cast. And I don't want to sit here thinking, what was his name again? What was her name again? Death by Lightning. Okay. There's two major characters in this. There is James Garfield, 20th President of the United States, and he's played by Michael Shannon. And then there's Charles Guiteau, played by Matthew McFadden from Severance, and he was in Deadpool and Wolverine as the TVA guy. They're your two main stars. But you've also got Bradley Whitford from West Wing as James Blaine. You got Nick Offerman as Chester A. Arthur, the 21st President of the United States. You've got Shea Wiggum as Roscoe Conklin, Betty Gilpin as Garfield's wife, Lucretia. Vondi Curtis Hall, who was in the Daredevil first season of the original series, as Frederick Douglass. I mean, there's a lot of great casting in this. By the looks, some of the members of Congress, they were part of the politics. Yeah, you're right. They kind of do. All right, so if you don't know the story of James Garfield, I'm not going to give you spoilers for the show because they're history. But I'm going to give you the basics of Garfield. And if this doesn't sound batshit crazy to you, I don't know what does. Okay? We were at a time where corruption was big in politics. Basically, somebody got elected and then posted all their cronies in to the jobs to fill the government. Like now. Ulysses S. Grant had been president, had been out for a year, and was going to try again to run. James Blaine, a congressman from Maryland, was going to run, and James Sherman, who was the treasurer at the time, was going to run as well. Well done, Ed. Well done. So they're having this big convention trying to figure out who the nominee is going to be, the Republican convention. And the problem is, Grant has like 300, dedicated delegates, and they're not swaying at all. And the rest are being split by Blaine and Sherman. Well, Conklin gives a speech in nominating Grant. Blaine gives a speech nominating, or somebody nominates Blaine. And James Garfield is a congressman who had just been voted into Senate, or was about to be voted into the Senate. He was a war hero, and he was a mathematician. He actually created a bunch of math equations that would prove stuff like Pythagorean's theorem, stuff like that. So he was a smart guy. And he kept hearing these speeches beforehand of nominating the other candidates. And he realized that all it was just the same old BS. It was the same old crony capitalism. And he decided to use his speech to talk about how they're there to serve the people and how that's what's needed. And he gives this roaring speech. And he goes to his the punch part of it. And the punch part's supposed to be, and who do we want? And everybody's supposed to say James Sherman, because that's who he's talking about. But when he says, who do we want? Somebody in the rafters, before anybody else speaks, yells out, Garfield for president. This shook everybody up. And Garfield's like, no, we want James Sherman. Because Garfield didn't want to be president. Now, he may have wanted it sometime in the future, but he wasn't there to promote himself. He was there to promote his friend Sherman, who had given him the job or got him into Congress. Well, the voting kept going back and forth, and the delegates couldn't agree. Blaine had all his people. Grant had his. Sherman had like 90. It wasn't enough to go anywhere. And what happened was one guy in one of the votes cast, because, delegates can cast whoever they want. Even when there was election, thing, the delegates can still cast who they want, because you're voting in a delegate. You're not voting in a specific candidate. Well, he cast a vote for Garfield. And Garfield tracks him down. He's like, no, I don't want this. Don't do that. Well, a few more goes by. And then the state of Ohio, where Garfield's from, decides to hell with this. And they cast all of their votes for Garfield. And it just keeps going from there. So by the 36th time of them taking the vote, all of Sherman's people have moved to Garfield. And Blaine stands up and says, everybody who votes for me, you should vote for Garfield. And Garfield's like, no, I don't want this. And they did. And with that, Garfield actually won the nomination and went up against a former general or lieutenant general colonel named Hancock and won. And he took Chester A. Arthur as his vice president. And Arthur was the last person you'd ever see as the vice president. He was this big, loud-speaking, mutton chop wearing bully. He ran New York's tax collection, and he would beat people up, and he was the last person you would expect. But he had connections in New York, which they needed. So the people running Garfield's campaign, Garfield really didn't do a lot. Garfield went home to Ohio and campaigned from his porch, other than coming into town and to New York to make one speech. He campaigned from his porch in Ohio. But they picked Chester A. Arthur as his vice president without his knowledge. And you get all this going on. So he wins barely by like 2,000 delegates total, or votes. But he is probably one of the most reforming presidents ever. Everything he wanted to do was civil rights minded, revise the civil service stuff. I mean, he was a very progressive president. And in doing so, that affected Arthur, who finished up a lot of the stuff that Garfield was trying to do. But you don't hear a lot about Garfield. You don't hear a lot about Arthur either. But the reason you don't hear much about Garfield is that there was this crazy guy named Guiteau. And Guiteau worked his way into the campaign. And he was literally crazy. He thought he was destined for greatness. This is a guy that joined a free sex cult, one of the first free sex cults in America, and couldn't get any because he wasn't willing to do the hard work part of it. So he wasn't willing to do the plowsharing and doing all the stuff that I'm working on the farm. So none of the girls went with him. So yeah, this is a weird guy. And he's a con man. He's a thief, but he finds his way into favor through a couple different ways. Arthur being one, Chester A. Arthur being one of them. And he gets his in mind that he helps Garfield become president. And then when he starts to disagree with some of the things Garfield is doing, he feels a bigger connection to Arthur and decides that what he needs to do is kill Garfield, and that he would then that Arthur would become president, be able to do the stuff they want him to do, and that eventually Gateau would become president himself. That he would be lauded for his maneuver. It just shows you how crazy he is. So again, everything I'm telling you right now is true, 100% true. And Gateau shoots Garfield in July, and I think it's 1881. I'm fuzzy on that date, but he doesn't die. He doesn't die from the gunshot wound. What happens is he has a doctor that comes to him, and this is one of the doctors that had worked on Lincoln. And this particular doctor had this weird thing where he didn't believe in germs. He didn't believe that things need to be sterilized or that germs caused infections. So without washing his hands or anything, he went in and dug the bullet out. Had they left the bullet in, Garfield would probably have lived. But the fact that they dug it out, it got infected, and he would get better and worse and better and worse. But basically, that's July, August, and at the end of September, he died. And Chester Arthur became president. That's all in the history books. But again, no one talks about it. It's like one of the weirdest, most covered up things. I'm not covered up, but just forgotten bits of history that this crazy guy was able to become. And Garfield was just bizarre in the sense that he didn't think that the presidency was something that somebody would try to assassinate. I mean, literally. And this is after Kennedy had been assassinated. His wife asked him, this was before Secret Service exists. His wife asked him, maybe we should, why don't we hire some guards to protect you? And he said, I quote, assassination can be no more guarded against than death by lightning. And that's where the title of the series comes from, his quote about death by lightning, saying that it is as random as death by lightning, assassination. Again, this is just such, and then they're telling this story. You've got Nick Offerman playing Chester A. Arthur. You've got Bradley Whitford playing Blaine. You've got Shea Wiggum playing Conklin, and Michael Shannon as Garfield, Michael McFadden as Gateau. They're brilliant. It is an absolutely entertaining, and it's only 4 episodes. So this isn't a long commitment. Okay, this is just a very like a double-length movie. So if you are a history fan, politics fan, this is a really neat show. It's entertaining, but you sit there through the entire thing going, how is this real? How did this happen? Why did it, and you look back at Garfield and you think, this guy could have been fantastic for the country. His ideas were groundbreaking and would move us ahead so much. It's just, I'm hooked on this show, and it's the stuff that you want to see, and the fact that someone came along, and there was a book called Destiny of the Nation. I think that's what it was, or Destiny of the Republic. And it was the true story of all this. And the writer saw that and made this series out of it and adapted it. And there's so many amazing, I mean, just great characters. Gateau is such an interesting character. Garfield is such an interesting character. Arthur is such an interesting character. But the fact that these are all men, half of these were men who would become president, just, it makes you rethink a lot of things. I haven't really dug deep into the similarities between Lincoln and Kennedy, but I'm going to now. Yeah, nope, nope. Death by Lightning is the name of the show, and I love it. It's so unique in all the stuff I'm watching, these murder mysteries and superhero shows, and cooking shows, that just this really offbeat true life story. I mean, it's dramatized. So the showrunner admits that they did take a little bit of poetic license, but not as much as you would think. That every meeting Gateau has with somebody in the administration, or he even has a moment where he talks with Garfield's wife. Those are all things that really happened that they have proof of. All of this stuff is, based on facts and letters and, things like that. So this should have gotten a lot more hype. Absolutely. So yeah, it's a great series, and like I said, it's just 4 episodes. You get 2 in, you're halfway done. Cool. I'd appreciate that, Ed. So, all right, guys. I know it's a little early, but that's, unless you guys have any questions you want to throw at me real quick. We'll take a couple minutes to do that. Like I said, I do have a new camera. I think it's okay. It's a little closer, but the good part of that is I have to clean less of my room. I only need to keep like this shelf and those 2 shelves clean. So the rest of the room could be a disaster and you guys wouldn't know. Thanks, Ed. But yeah, I do recommend Death by Lightning. If you like medical dramas, you should be watching The Pitt. Make your own judgment on Harry Potter. If you haven't started watching Daredevil Born Again Season 2, maybe hang out till Tuesday and watch all 3 to get to the stuff that everybody says they love. I haven't had a chance to do much painting on the Warhammer. Working on it, though. I need to get back to that. But yeah, I've got all the figures built for my main army, and I've got a friend of mine who is slowly getting back into it, but he's got his army is very old, and he needs to see what he needs to fix up and also what the new rules are and stuff. So we're getting there. So, and then Lisa, I've got all of Lisa's Age of Sigmar part of it. There's Warhammer 40K and Warhammer Age of Sigmar. 40K is the sci-fi version. Age of Sigmar is the fantasy version. So I've got my sci-fi army ready, and I've built all of Lisa's fantasy army. I need to build my fantasy army. I've got some of the figures built, but I need to get in and get that done. Did you guys ever figure out how to play Dungeons and Dragons online? If you did, how did it go? We haven't yet, but I am talking to somebody about being our DM. So once he says he's good to go, then we'll start filling it in. Ladies and gentlemen, my brother enters the chat. How much wood could Woodchuck chuck if Woodchuck could chuck wood? Well, turns out the woodchucks have unionized, and they're not chucking any wood without a new contract. So it is what it is. But the beavers are union busters, so we'll see how that works out. All right, guys. I am going to wrap it up there. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the week. I will be back on Sunday with more Daredevil talk and whatever comes up this week, because you have no idea. So thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you all next time.